The following contains mature content. You've been warned.
From Wondery, I'm Mark Ramsey, and this is part 5 of Inside
June 1965. The Maryland State Hospital for the Insane. Things are quiet now. The psychotic patients are all around, sleeping, watching television, wandering, directionless, staring into space. A visitor walks through the hall. He's in a pinstripe suit, white shirt and tie. What was happening? Patients began to scream and cry. Someone called orderlies. They were bringing straitjackets and sticks. What happened? The nurse was asked. What just happened? And who was that man walking through here? It was a priest, the nurse said, and he was carrying the Holy Bible. Good morning, sir. Mr. Friedkin, welcome. Please come in. January 1973. Billy Friedkin's in New York. He has a meeting with the UN representative from Iraq. So, what can I do for you, Mr. Friedkin? Well, the opening scene for my new movie, The Exorcist, is set in Iraq, and we'd like to shoot that scene in Iraq. Well, as you know, Mr. Friedkin, Americans are strangers in my country, but you're welcome to shoot in Iraq under one condition. You must hire Iraqis for your crew. Sure, I didn't know there was a film industry in Iraq. There isn't. You have to train them. Oh, okay. One more request. I'm listening. We want your makeup person to teach Iraqis how to make fake movie blood. Billy Friedkin agreed. He didn't ask why the Iraqis would want to make fake movie blood, frankly. He didn't want to know. Mr. Friedkin, is there any possibility that your film will have a small role for someone who looks like me? Maybe. Just maybe. Spring 1973. Perth, Australia. Signature, please? For what? That package over there. He motioned to an enormous box, more than 14 feet high and 8 feet wide. The return address? Warner Brothers, Burbank. This box, he had to open. Wow. Well, they're not going to believe this back at the pub. He was staring at a huge fiberglass penis. He quickly rewrapped the package. If somebody took a picture of him now, he'd never live it down. Why did Warner Brothers send a 14-foot-tall, 8-foot-wide statue with extended talons and an even more extended penis to Australia?
They did what? It's where?
That's what Billy Friedkin wanted to know, too. Because this was the statue of the demon Pazuzu. And it was supposed to be the star of a critical scene on an archaeological site near Mosul in Iraq, not in an airport in Perth, Australia. Back on the plane it went. Next stop, Iraq. All right, Linda, it's 7 a.m. Have a seat. That's Dick Smith, legendary makeup artist and the man who transformed Linda Blair into a demon slowly and painstakingly for more than 2 hours every day for weeks. All right, sit still, Linda. Linda kept craning her neck around Dick to see what was on the TV. It was The Flying Nun, the bubbly broad comedy featuring Sally Field as, well, a nun who can fly. Linda was mesmerized. For Dick Smith, this was no less torturous than a shower of pea soup. Who came up with this idea, he thought, a flying nun? And who at the network possibly could have concluded that this was the best idea of the bunch? No matter, Dick was a pro. He had survived aging an impatient Marlon Brando on the set of The Godfather. He could survive a flying nun. In these days of practical FX, when it looked cold, it was because it was cold. And the entire exorcism sequence was very cold. It had to be. That was the only way to show an actor's breath. Thanks to $50,000 worth of noisy air conditioning equipment that worked overtime to counteract the heat from the movie lights, the set was literally built inside a refrigerator. Every morning, the workday began at 10 degrees below zero until the hot lights at midday. Billy, the room temp is 32 degrees. We lost our chill. Okay, everybody, turn the AC back on. We'll break until it's cold again. And so it went. On and off and on again. All day, every day. Friedkin and his crew were protected by ski suits. The cast would spend their off-camera time in a specially prepared warm-up room. Everyone got sick, everyone got the flu, everyone missed time. Everyone except Linda Blair. She was youngest, most vulnerable, and wearing only a nightgown, but she never got a sniffle and never missed a day of shooting. Max von Sydow was always an actor's actor. He was a favorite of Ingmar Bergman. Billy Friedkin believed Max could do anything as Father Merrin until he couldn't. It was Father Merrin's pivotal scene. Exhausted and with a weak heart, he summons one final burst of strength and shouts at the top of his lungs, "I cast you out, unclean spirit, in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit!" The ceiling cracks. A practical effect, a real ceiling cracking. That meant every take required a new ceiling, and Billy had to shoot take after take after take. Why? Because Max delivered the line without enough enthusiasm, without passion. It was flat. 6 ceilings were made, 6 takes, all bad. 6 more ceilings were made. It was a disaster. Okay, Max, you've seen the dailies. Man, it's awful. We can't afford more ceilings. What is the problem with this line? Billy, the most powerful way to deliver a line is to deliver it quietly. Max, you're exercising a noisy demon. Quietly won't cut it here. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to finish the scene. What if I ask Bergman to come in and direct it? No. It's not about Bergman. Bergman can't fix what's wrong here. What is it then? It's that the words don't feel true. I don't believe them. Billy, I don't believe in God. But Max, you have played Jesus himself before. Yeah, but I didn't play him as a god. I played him as a man. Then play Merrin as a man. He has no supernatural powers. He's a man, a priest with the power of belief, a man strengthened by faith. Give me a few minutes. Billy gave him a few minutes. Meanwhile, Billy pondered a rewrite that would kill off Merrin so that Father Karras could finish the exorcism. Okay, Max, let's try it one last time as written. The result was a perfect reading, a perfect delivery, a perfect take, and no more false ceilings. Let us pray. God of heaven and earth, God of the angels and archangels, the exorcism begins. Jason Miller, Max von Sydow, and Linda Blair under the demon's influence, alone together. The way Billy staged the scene, Miller and von Sydow knew their prayer, but they didn't know what Linda was going to say in response to it. In this struggle between good and evil, the bedroom was a battlefield, and the demon, through Linda, would use every foul word in the English language as a weapon, whether Max and Jason expected it or not. God of the prophets and the apostles, God of the martyrs and virgins, God who has power to bestow life after death and rest after toil, for there is no other God.
Stick your cock up her ass, you motherfucking worthless cocksucker!
Max was supposed to keep the prayer going, but he stopped. He heard those words coming out of that mouth, and he just had to stop. He froze. He turned to Billy. I need a moment. I just need a moment. Here was one of the most distinguished actors on the planet, and in that moment, the shock overwhelmed him. Friedkin leaned over to Blatty. Bill, if the cast reacts that way, wait until the audience gets a load of this. Linda Blair was bound with a harness to a hidden board. As she lay on the bed, technicians would throw her body back and forth, up and down violently. At some point, some metal came loose and her body bashed against it over and over.
Make it stop! Make it stop! Make it stop!
That was the line, and she delivered it. But it quickly became more than that. She was being injured. She was in pain. How do you make it stop when the line is make it stop? Nobody realized she meant it. It's the most famous appearance in the history of cinema of pea soup and oatmeal. Cut. Let's do it again. There's something wrong with the consistency. What brand is it? Campbell's. Let's try the other kind. What is it? It's called Anderson's. Perfect. Print it. Makeup genius Dick Smith had created a mouth harness that would pump the vile concoction into and out of the mouth of Linda Blair. The feeder tube was hidden under her hair. There was a lot of pea soup in her mouth. Linda Blair hated pea soup. She still does. And that's why it's all the more remarkable that if you look hard enough, you can find today collectible cans of Anderson's pea soup autographed. Sweet dreams, Linda Blair. Mr. Friedkin, is it true that Linda Blair's stand-in performs some of the more shocking scenes in the movie? Absolutely not. That's Linda on screen every minute, every second, doing everything. She deserves all the credit for her performance. The media marveled, but not everyone was so happy. Certainly not a young actress named Eileen Dietz. Dear Screen Actors Guild, my name is Eileen Dietz. And earlier this year, I was hired by director William Friedkin to double actress Linda Blair on the movie The Exorcist. I did parts of every possession scene in the film. Recently, in fact, I was a guest on the Mike Douglas show where I was interviewed about how long it took for my makeup to be applied, what kind of strength various scenes required, and what it was like to play a young girl possessed. I am petitioning you for the right to talk about the film and my role in it. Billy Friedkin did not take this challenge kindly. Look, Eileen Dietz was Linda Blair's stand-in, and she's been trying to build a career on the totally false claim that she played some of the demonic scenes in the movie. She was in only a handful of scenes that last a few seconds on the screen. Her contribution total, a few seconds in a film that runs 2 hours. Linda Blair played that part, period. Eileen Dietz did not create the character and has no legitimate claim in the matter. It was dubbed the Great Pea Soup War. The case went to arbitration. The movie was examined frame by frame. Eileen Dietz appears on screen for a total of 28 1/4 seconds, although those seconds included some of the most famous moments in the movie. The controversy would sting Linda Blair, and it would come back to haunt her when Hollywood judged who would be worthy of Oscar. It is one of the most notorious scenes in The Exorcist. A booming sound comes from young Reagan's room. Her mother, Chris, races up the stairs. Objects are flying, careening across the room. freeze on Chris's horrified gaze. Her daughter, her young daughter on her bed, is driving a crucifix between her legs. Let Jesus fuck you, let him fuck you. It didn't matter that the hand driving the crucifix under the blood-spattered nightgown belonged to 29-year-old Eileen Dietz, not 14-year-old Linda Blair. It didn't matter at all. Over some stiff drinks with Billy Friedkin, Bill Blatty was troubled by what he saw. Billy, I always thought that scene would be pure suggestion, nothing visible below the girl's chest. I expected the crucifix would go below the frame, out of the shot, and come back up with blood on it. Let the audience's imagination tell them where it's been. Friedkin smiled, a wicked smile. Nope. I'm going to overlight it. I'm going to add stabbing sounds. I'm going to put it center frame. I'm going to make it stunning and repulsive and shocking and vulgar. And that, Bill, is why audiences are going to come. Not to see the victory of light over dark, but to see the little girl masturbate with the crucifix. Much later, Blatty was forced to reconsider. I thought Friedkin was making a mistake, a big one. I thought this might wreck the film. But later I realized he was absolutely right. And I found that terribly depressing. Spring 1973, London. Billy Friedkin needed a music score for The Exorcist, and he needed it fast. He wanted one man, the legendary Hollywood composer, Bernard Herrmann. Bernie's career had spanned a half-century and included classics like Vertigo, Psycho, and Citizen Kane. The screening of the rough cut of The Exorcist was over. All eyes looked to Bernie Herrmann as he savored a cigarette. There was a long silence. An uncomfortably long silence. Wow, that's a lot of crap. Even so, Mr. Friedkin, I think I can help you, but you gotta get rid of that opening scene. You don't like the sequence in Iraq? Worse than don't like it, I actually hate it. What in the world do you need that for? It's a waste of time. You probably want to keep it because it was so expensive and so hard and it greases the stick up your ass. Well, actually, it sets the mood for everything that happens later. Mood schmood, that's a lot of horse shit. Look, if you want me to do the score, I have to do it in London. There's an old church I know with a beautiful organ and great acoustics. You want to use a church organ in The Exorcist? Yeah, it's The Exorcist. It ain't the druggist. It ain't the haberdasher. A church organ fits. Well, to me, it feels like a cliche. Look, young man, I have done hundreds of scores. You've made a couple of movies. Big fucking deal. Just leave the print here, and when I'm done, I'll drop your score in the mail. I wanted a score as great as the one you did for Citizen Kane. Sure, kid. Then why don't you make a movie as good as Citizen Kane? Mr. Herrmann, thank you for your time. You are a very interesting person. Bernard Herrmann would not be the last legendary Hollywood composer whose ideas would not be good enough for Billy Friedkin. The pressure of that December release date was bearing down, and still no score. Billy Friedkin was in a room alone with a stack of records. He was listening to one after the other after the other. That's when he heard it. A haunting melody from an album called Tubular Bells. An album from a new London company. It would go on to be the first million-selling record for that company and its young upstart founder, Richard Branson. The company would be called Virgin Music. Late summer, 1973. Billy Friedkin had less than 6 months to edit, build sound effects, record the demon voice, record a music score, and approve release prints. A delay was impossible. It would cost Warner millions. Finish it, they said. It would be in theaters on December 26, the day after Christmas. One problem nagged at him. It tore at his mind. It kept him awake every night. What would the demon sound like? So, what do you think? Can you do it? That's Billy Friedkin. He has a special guest in the screening room today. He had never met her before, but today he was ready to offer her the role of a lifetime. How much do you know about me, Mr. Friedkin? Well, Ms. McCambridge, I know Orson Welles called you the greatest radio actress ever, and I know that the demon's voice is a critical element to the success of The Exorcist. I know that I need a woman's voice, and yours is one of a kind. Mercedes McCambridge was 57 and had spent years battling her own demons. Let me tell you about me, Mr. Friedkin. I'm Catholic, I'm a recovering alcoholic, and I spent 30 years chained to a pack of smokes. 2 of my friends are priests. I'll need their support and advice at all times. To get the sound you want, I will have to do things I haven't done to my body for years. Smoke, drink bourbon, and worse. Billy was going to object, but she raised her hand and stopped him cold. No, don't worry about it. It's not just the sound. You want me to find the demon inside me. I will have to unleash things I've kept inside for years. It's in there, and it wants to come out. For weeks, Billy worked with Mercedes McCambridge on a dubbing stage at Warner Brothers. There she sat, in a chair, her hands and feet bound. Tighter! If Reagan was in pain, suffering, Mercedes would suffer too. Tighter, damn it! On the menu, Jack Daniels through a straw, raw eggs, and many, many cigarettes. All her life, she battled bronchitis. It would cause her to wheeze. Each word. There were dozens of takes, an hour, 2 hours of recording, and then she would collapse on a couch behind the stage. Priests would stay with her and pray while she cried. Then back to the stage, over and over, for 10 hours a day, until they were finished. That's it, we're done. Billy, would you do me a favor? Sure, Mercedes, anything. This film is going to be marvelous, but for it to really work, the audience can't think about who did the voice. It's a distraction. And that girl, Linda, her work is wonderful. Let the focus be on her and that work. I don't want to take a screen credit, Billy. I really don't. And please don't force me to take it. But Mercedes, your work is wonderful too. You deserve the credit for it. No, Billy, I don't want it. I mean it. The film will be better this way. Well, that's the way Billy remembers it. Mercedes McCambridge remembered it differently. And that difference would be costly. It would make an already controversial movie controversial for all the wrong reasons. It would handicap The Exorcist in its race for Oscar glory, and it would punish the young actor whose performance least deserved it, Linda Blair. Next time on Inside The Exorcist.
Do you know why we're here?
It's an explanation for an exorcism.
From Wondery, this is a 7-part deep dive inspired by the story behind an unforgettable classic movie. This is Inside The Exorcist. Written and narrated by Mark Ramsey, featuring Stephanie Drake as Linda Blair, sound design and editing by Jeff Schmidt, produced by Mark Ramsey Media, consulting producer Jeffrey Glazer, executive producer Hernan Lopez for Wondery. We'd like to learn more about you. Please complete a short survey at wondery.com/survey and subscribe to this show on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, or wherever you listen. It's free. For more information or to comment on this show, visit our website, wondery.com/InsideExorcist or facebook.com/InsideExorcist. If you like the show, we'd love you to give us a 5-star rating and a review. It helps others discover us. Tweet us at Inside Exorcist. Please thank us by rewarding our sponsors with your support. And please, support Linda Blair's Animal Rescue Foundation at lindablairworldheart.org.